Hi, this is Vijay Mambani and I'm recording this video from my residence to talk about something which is so urgent that it basically cannot wait. I want to talk to you about the oil price wars that are unfolding upon us, and every single day brings out a new development. The Saudis have now announced raising their output to 13 million barrels of oil a day. Earlier, it was a little over 11 million barrels of oil, but the Saudis were talking about exporting 13 million barrels of oil a day, which basically implied that they were willing to dip into their reserves to be able to sell more oil to the world. That actually was a bit of a good news because there was a limit to how much inventory the Saudis would have. But now it looks like they are willing to up their output as well, even if it meant incurring a huge amount of cost. Which basically tells you that the Saudis are now digging their heels into the ground and saying, we want to prolong this oil price war. I'm here to talk about how long I think, or rationally you should think, this oil price war can last. And where do we go from here? Let me basically remind you of the videos that I have been talking about bearishness in crude oil and natural gas throughout the second half of calendar year 2019. I'm not talking about an I told you so or my bragging rights about what I said and what happened about oil and gas thereafter. We are basically talking data, we are basically talking hard numbers, and we are talking rationality here. The Russians basically had a very uneasy alliance with OPEC members. Russia is not a part of OPEC, but that the Russians were attending the OPEC meetings made OPEC call itself OPEC Plus, which meant non-OPEC members. Now the Russians are the big boys in the room. Putin has basically the largest gas reserves which he sells through his company Gazprom. Donald Trump, by the way, has imposed sanctions on Putin's gas company and also the energy trading company Rosneft. This is something that I have already mentioned in my video earlier. The Russians are desperate to sell oil for the simple reason that they have economic sanctions imposed upon them after they moved their military into Ukraine, in Crimea. Oil prices are falling and the Russian exports are getting them fewer dollars. Putin needs to raise his revenues, if at all he is to avoid an Arab Spring in Russia. The Saudis themselves need a lot of money because their social welfare program, by way of which they avoid a social unrest like the Arab Spring from the minority Shia population that they do have in Saudi Arabia. They basically distribute money by way of social welfare programs. And these social welfare programs are now getting bigger and bigger thanks to inflation. And therefore the Saudis will need a lot more money to distribute it so as to avoid a regime change. With oil prices falling, with Saudi Aramco's IPO collection falling short of what the Prince Mohammed bin Salman wanted, the Saudis have a problem. They're trying to edge out all the other competitors using strong arm tactics by creating a short-term oil price decline. Have you ever seen any common street fight between two hoodlums? The rules of street combat are standard operating procedure and simplicity in itself. Rule number 1. He who throws the first punch and hard punch tends to win. Rule number 2. After your opponent is down after you land a first hard punch on him, at least appear to and threaten to follow it with more and more punitive action. Rule number 3. There's no point in either of you guys killing yourself. So if any guy comes to broker a peace between the two of you, take it. If no third-party mediator comes to broker a peace, you basically back off and let the other guy surrender. If at all any one guy dies, it doesn't help the survivor either. My guess is Prince Mohammed bin Salman is basically trying to do exactly that. For the next couple of weeks, he will try these tactics of shock and awe. He will appear to be capable of landing more and more hard punches to the oil market by way of raising output, by way of dipping into his inventories, and you will see newer announcements emerging day after day from the oil market. A couple of hours ago, on Thursday morning, I'm recording this video on Thursday, I read the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, ADNOC, announcing a 1 million barrels per day increase in their oil output, which basically means that ADNOC will then be able to export, hypothetically, 4 million barrels of crude oil per day. In my last video, I talked about the Wafra, the Khafji, the Jafurah, the Johan Sverdrup, the Guyanese oil field, the Gudrun Wildcat, etc. Now here you have ADNOC adding 1 more million barrels of oil per day. A back of the envelope simple calculation tells you that we are now sitting at a surplus, a new added surplus, up to 2.25, if not 2.5 million barrels of oil per day. That obviously means oil prices are likely to remain subdued, which is why all throughout 2019 I was advocating oil as a sell, in addition to natural gas, of course. But how far can oil prices go? They definitely can't go below zero. And they definitely can't be allowed to go to zero, otherwise the entire exercise of edging your competitors out of the export market, which the Saudis are trying to do, becomes irrational. My guess is oil is unlikely to go below $20 a barrel. If it does come below $20 a barrel, maybe a dollar here or two. And in terms of time, I think this oil price war will see some kind of a brokered or a self-negotiated truce in the next 6 weeks, if not 8. I would not see this oil price conflict going beyond the first or second week of May 2020. I don't think any of these big boys, Vladimir Putin or Mohammed bin Salman, having any intent of bleeding themselves to death. I think in the next 6 to 8 weeks, this will all be over. What really happens thereafter? Cheap oil would mean cheaper inflation. Of course, the stock markets would have tanked significantly. Commodity and currency markets would have taken gigantic hits. Sentiments would have eroded. And it will take time for the markets to come back to its feet. But what will really happen is that fundamentally good companies, stocks which technically have not seen major violation of their chart patterns, will be the first to bounce. I assure you, I will keep abreast of the situation and will update you through my videos. Do join me on Equity Master's Telegram channel with the handle Equity Master Official. I will keep posting my news and views over there 24/7. This is Vijay Bambwani signing off for now. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please click the like button. In the comment section, tell me what you think about this video and what else you would want me to record in my forthcoming videos. Do not forget to share this video with your family and friends. Do take very good care of your investments and trades. Thank you. Also, do not forget to subscribe to my free email newsletter, Fast Profits Daily, and get my free guide, How to Trade Markets Like a Pro.